We weren't even human yet. We were like Heidelbergensis or whichever made the first zigzags on a shell, which that'll be one topic one day. But for today, the zigzag is, I think, the most important symbol. See, now, this is the other thing is, now, just for people to understand what we're doing, I can point to something and then add it later. So I'm showing you by pointing to this stuff, right? Like the most important thing you'll ever see is this pattern. But the first one you need to understand is this one. How the moon goes along the ecliptic. So that red line is the ecliptic. That's this path of the sun, right? And then the green line is the moon. It's never really right on the ecliptic except when it crosses. And when it crosses, that's when you might get an eclipse, right? So the idea here is to show you that sort of serpentine line. The Greeks called it a serpentine. The fact that it looks like a serpent, the way it curves like that.
Oh,
yeah. That's the key to everything. But it's not the only pattern. Like, you can't say that just because you see this pattern on an old artifact, you can't say that's what it is, because there's also more than one kind of zigzag that they make. That's where this one comes in, where you show you. The green lines are the maximum limits of the moon on the horizon. So over time, these zigzags are made. The sun does it too, right? Like, this is the red line is the solstice point, right? So this is when the sun bounces between these, that's a solstice, that's a solstice, that's a solstice. And it just goes like that back and forth forever. Those zigzags I was just talking about on the shell could very well be somebody trying to figure out how old the shell was. Because the shell has growth rings on it like a tree does. And one chevron, so imagine this. So I go like this, I point to, like, I'm just some monkey back in the day before we were even human, and I point to the horizon and I say, we know the sun goes from there to there, so that's 1 year. Like, there's a solstice, then it goes to there, then to there, that's 1 year. But it's a chevron that it makes in the sky. The pattern that it makes is a chevron. But if you keep doing it year after year after year, it makes a zigzag. But here I'm trying to show the moon's patterns because it's more important. This one in the corner, that could be the most important geometric. You know what, like, geometry comes from, geo means earth, rock, stuff, right? Geometric pattern. If you're trying to figure out that 9-year thing we were talking about earlier, I'll just say it. The moon goes between these green lines. It takes 9 years for it to, see, that's 9 years, that's 9 years, that's 9 years, that's 9 years. And in the middle, you can get these eclipses on the solstice. If the moon is there, you'll never get an eclipse because it has to be in line with the sun at the solstice. That stuff doesn't matter yet. I'll show you that stuff later, but just the basic idea, I just want you to see this pattern, okay? Because when you see this pattern on artifacts, with numbers like 9 together, if people are doing tally marks and they say 9 and then there's an 18 and the zigzags are there, you have a chance to say maybe it's about the moon or the sun or whatever, maybe it's about Venus, whatever, because everything on the ecliptic does that pattern. But look what we're talking about here. Oh, there, it shows a little bit better that there's 2 nodes, so they go back and forth, and it's like 2 serpents crossing paths all the time. And on the oldest buildings, like, look at this. This is called the Temple of the Moon. See that pattern?
Yeah.
This is called the Temple of the Moon. Now, for some reason, nobody else has really put together these ideas of the moon. Like, even the fact that these are 2 zigzags put together, if you look closely, it's not diamond shapes. The diamond shapes are inside, but they've made the red zigzags like it's 2 zigzags put together. That's pretty important because their religion later says that they had a 2-headed serpent that was the cause of eclipses that would eat the sun and all that stuff. We'll go into all that stuff later too. For today, the idea is to show you not only the Temple of the Moon, but look at this. This is in the Americas. This is Aztec. This is actually in Peru. This is Peru, the Temple of the Moon in Peru. And that guy in the middle is their creator god. He's a creator and destroyer, which is the same. It's just the evolution of what eclipses always were to people. Eclipses were creation and destruction, and so it becomes their creator god. And the first gods were these serpents that could create and destroy. Bless you. But now, if you go back to everywhere in the world, so now that's one side of the world. Now, if you go to, this is Mesopotamia. So this is the first city in the world. These first cities in the world, and they have the same patterns on their temples. Also temples to the moon. This one's like to the goddess who represents Venus, but the same pattern. And I wonder where else I went. Oh yeah, here. See, they actually show it. They're from tombs in the oldest cities in the world. You get these things. Nobody really understands what they meant, but you see how they even put the crossing on there to make a diamond shape, and they put these dots in there. It's the same thing as this stuff. Their creator god there, but for here, I'll show. It takes years to show everything, but these are, in the end, these make eyes and weird concepts to us today, like wombs and stuff like that. Because they create and destroy, it's an evil eye, but it's also the womb of the creator god and all that stuff. It's all twisted up in their heads, all the stuff together. Okay, we have ADHD. See, that's 12 minutes already.
You recorded that whole thing?
Yeah, I did. Because today is the first idea is to get the title out there, show people what we're talking about, and how it all leads in the end to stuff like this, where people are burning their houses on a lunar. Like, when you ask archaeologists what these guys are doing here, they were burning their houses on a schedule like it seemed like every 9 years. They give you a range from 7 to 10 years. They say, oh, and then the other guys will say it was a range from, well, it seems like they're burning their houses down from every 15 to 20 years. And again, they're in that 18.6 thing that I was telling you about before. So they had, and some of them were saying between 50 and 60 years, and 55 or 56 is another one of these lunar numbers. So it's like they were watching the nodes. They were just tracking nodes because we were hunters, right? We were hunters. So they were tracking the nodes because it was a concern to them. Imagine you're out there in the Ice Age, and your job was to find something at night that you can only find during a full moon. Every couple of years, you would see the full moon disappear on you, but not behind a cloud. It would the light would fade, right? You'd get a lunar eclipse while you're trying to work. So they had this interest in trying to figure out what was going on. So, and because they're hunters, they could track it. They could track the lunar node over time. I guess I'll add that picture another time. This is why we're doing it like this, because now my ADHD wants to go somewhere else, but then I'll forget what we're doing. And over time, they got to a point where they're like, one of the titles of this could have been "The Gods Must Be Crazy," because it made them burn, in order to burn their houses down to a point where that made this cherry red flame that makes pottery a glass. Because remember, obsidian is a glass that comes from volcanoes, right? So they loved this idea of obsidian glass, and they wanted to make it themselves. And the only way they could do that is to burn these houses down with the fire inside so hot it went cherry red, and it made pottery into glass. Like we call it vitrification, but it's glassifying pottery. And but in order to do that, they burned down the forest. Like they cut lumber down. Eventually, whatever forest was close to the settlement, they would have to go 7 miles or 20 miles for wood because they burned it all for this god. So it made people crazy. But anyways, I guess that's it for today. I just want to get something done for today. But just give that idea of the most important geometric shape you could possibly imagine is this one right here. And I'll show you why over time. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.